We're ready for the snowdown in Steeltown. So huddle up from coast to coast for what should be a terrific football game on what is a perfect late November Sunday evening for Canadian football. There's Mike Clements. And can he repeat what he did to open the Eastern Final last week? Remember, he returned it 91 yards for a touchdown, awaiting the kickoff from Sean Fleming, who was a Grey Cup hero in 1993, top Canadian. And we are underway with the 84th Grey Cup game. And Mike Clements takes it away from Jimmy Cunningham. And Pinball Clements finds a hole and is up to the 35-yard line. 15-yard return after the 55-yard kickoff. Well, there's the five-time outstanding player. Doug Flutie in his third Grey Cup game says he's more relaxed this year. There are his numbers in the previous two games. A winner in 92, but again, the gloves are on, David, and this is a surprise.
Well, I think it's a surprise, but obviously Doug feels comfortable with him and he wouldn't have him on.
He'll operate out of the shotgun to open it up. Flutie, a very fast starter. And his first pass of the game is dropped by Paul Mazzotti. Mazzotti, the Stony Creek native, who dreamed of playing in a Grey Cup game here in Hamilton for his beloved Tiger Cats as a youngster. Mike Kiselak is the top offensive lineman in the Canadian Football League, and this line allowed just 18 sacks during the year to lead the Canadian Football League. There's Mazzotti, a 1,000-yard receiver once again, and James, no shortage of weapons here.
Well, you know, Doug Flutie has 5 receivers that caught over 60 balls during the regular season, and he's got to go to the airways once again.
2nd and 10 from the 35 of Toronto. Flutie in trouble, got it away, but it's incomplete. Malvin Hunter had his hands on the quarterback.
You know, we touched on it in the opening. Toronto did not allow a sack against Edmonton this year on their quarterback, but already Malvin Hunter, who was second in the CFL in sacks, put the pressure on Doug Flutie.
14 sacks on the season for Hunter, and he almost gets one on the opening defensive series.
They just brought an extra guy into the pass who couldn't pick him up, and Mal comes off clean and sacks Doug Flutie.
Here's the punt from Vanderjagt. Henry Williams straight up across the 45 to the 46-yard line. 35-yard punt by Mike Vanderjagt. And Gizmo with a 7-yard return. Michael O'Shea, first man downfield to meet him. Well, here comes Danny McManus, his first Grey Cup start, despite the fact he has 2 Grey Cup rings.
Well, Danny McManus had been a backup in Winnipeg and in BC, but he came off that memorable win in BC in '94 when Pasaglia kicked that last-second field goal.
Great track record on a snowy track. And from the 47, Eskimos first down. Pitch screen, they go to Eddie Brown. And Brown across the 50-yard line, and he's tossed out of bounds by Donald Smith at the 52, a 5-yard pickup for McManus. And we'll set the offense for you for the Eskimos. Rod Conop is their great veteran. 3 Grey Cup rings, and he was wearing them this week to try and inspire his teammates. And David, important to get Darren Flutie in the game early, but especially important, you played with Eddie Brown. He likes the ball early, too.
Very important to get Eddie Brown in the game. It gets him in the flow, gets his mind on what's going on, and really focus. This is something Ronnie asks his son every day. He says, when are we getting Eddie Brown in the game plan? Already involved.
2nd and 5 for Edmonton. They go to the wide side of the field. There's Darren Flutie. So back-to-back completions for Danny McManus. And a 16-yard gain to the other Flutie. The Eskimos serenaded him on the bus ride home to Calgary, calling him the good Flutie. Here's the defense. They'll go up against Demetrius Maxey, outstanding in the Eastern Final, a couple of sacks. Great in the Grey Cup for Baltimore last year. Donnie Wilson has 3 Grey Cup rings. He's won Grey Cups for either of these two teams. And Ed Barry had a interception for a touchdown in the 91 Grey Cup for the Toronto Argonauts. Here's Eric Blunt trying to get outside. Johnny Harris was blocked out of the way. And it's down to the Argo 40 for Eric Blunt, the 1,000-yard runner, and a flag is down.
You know, one of the things that's going to create a problem for Toronto on this slippery turf is that they're a great pursuing team. And when you come with misdirection...
Objectionable conduct, Toronto number 50, first down.
And when you come with misdirection and you get that flow going the opposite direction and you come back against it, their footing is not going to be as good. Michael O'Shea draws the first major penalty of the game, playing back in Hamilton.
Don Matthews says penalties are a reflection of the coaches, and he won't like this one.
Well, he's not. Michael O'Shea, there's a lot of emotion with him coming back to Steeltown, and he took an extra shot on Mark Tobert.
Native of North Bay, coming off his best game as an Argonaut in the Eastern Final against Montreal last Sunday. So Edmonton in business, first down from the Argo 30. Here's McManus with time downfield, and Flutie went up to get it. Good coverage there by Donald Smith.
Just a zone coverage that time. They got Flutie going right up the seam. Danny decided to try to take a shot down the field and had Jim Sandusky open in the right flat. But he knows that he wants Flutie. The throw is a little bit long, and Smith comes in and makes a nice play, but Sandusky is open.
And once again, we see the unsure footing of Toronto's defensive front seven, not being able to get pressure on McManus as of yet.
So it's 2nd and 10 from the Argo 30. McManus with 3 receivers right side. Has time, and there was miscommunication there as Darren Flutie hooked up, and McManus thought he was going to have the flat pattern.
Well, these are some of the problems that go on when you got option routes on. This time he hooks up. He expected him to go to the flat, and a lot of times that's what happens.
One of the things, they have to find a more consistent ground game. When you have weather like this is where Eric Blunt and Tony Burst are going to have to get some extra work this afternoon. They can't just rely on their passing attack.
Well, Sean Fleming was terrific in the 93 Grey Cup game. Outstanding last week. 5 for 6 against Calgary. And he'll have to contend with the winds that are blowing across and into the face of Fleming. This from 37 yards out. And Fleming has missed it to the right. And it'll be brought out. This is Jimmy Cunningham. And Cunningham stopped at the 19-yard line. So the first opportunity to score goes by the boards for Edmonton as Cunningham brings it out 23 yards. 3.5 minutes in to the 84th Grey Cup game. No score in Hamilton. Welcome back to snowy Hamilton. Darren Flutie getting attention on the bench, and he took that enormous hit from Anthony McClanahan last week in the Western Final, and even a couple of days ago said he still felt nauseous and a little uncertain, was hearing bells in his ears.
Well, he went high for one of the McManus's passes close to the goal line, and he was slammed down hard to the turf by Smith, and he's getting checked by the team's physician.
At the 19-yard line, Argos first down. There's a high shotgun snap. Flutie down on it, slides into the end zone. Is it a safety? Yes. Doug Flutie recovers the ball. They're ruling he was touched in the end zone. The momentum took it in for the 2 points.
A big break earlier in the game for Edmonton. Robert Drummond trying to take the direct snap from Mike Kislak, and the ball was just too high, and he couldn't get his hands on it because he was looking for the hole at the line of scrimmage. Edmonton with 2 points early. Big moves, big momentum swing at this point.
This is certainly a situation that is found out perfectly for Ron Lancaster. He couldn't have asked for a better start. A bad snap here. Drummond doesn't handle it. The conditions generate a lot of this. We saw Mazzotti drop a pass that was right in his hands earlier in the ball game. Here a snap that probably would have been caught in good conditions isn't handled.
Well, everyone back in Edmonton was praying for the bad weather because they've won most of their playoff games in conditions such as this. And with the snow flying in Toronto, not accustomed to playing in elements such as this nature, Edmonton right now has a clear-cut advantage here in the first quarter.
And what is dangerous is so much of the Argo offense is predicated on the direct snaps and the shotgun snaps of Mike Kislak.
Well, they've done a lot of that in the past couple of weeks. Mike Clements as well as Robert Drummond taking the snaps. Now Doug Flutie might have to find himself going back up under center here early in the game.
I think it's certainly a situation where some of the trick stuff that goes on, where you depend on direct snaps and this and that, little pitches, this and that changes a little bit because your precision is worn down because of the conditions.
Gizmo's back after the safety. The Argos are forced to kick off from their 35. Ball hits the turf. And Eric Blunt has some trouble, but picks it up, and he'll step out at the Edmonton Eskimo 32. I talked to Mike Kiselak earlier in the week about these snaps, and he normally wears gloves. He said if the football got really greasy, he'd take the gloves off today, but so far he's sticking with the gloves on.
Well, we had a similar problem in the Southern Division final last year against Baltimore. We had a couple of shotgun snaps get by us. Mike was the center in that game. I was probably more to blame than Mike was, but it rears its ugly head again.
And so McManus, who moved the football on the Eskimos' first possession, has the ball at their own 32. They swing it out to Blunt, and it's incomplete.
Well, when you have a back that close out of the backfield, you must make sure you put some touch on it.
Just talked to Paul Musati on the Argo bench. He's complaining that the footballs are frozen and they're as hard as a brick. I talked to the ball boy before the game. He told me he would not be keeping the footballs warm near the gas heaters on the sideline. They're being kept in the open in a duffel bag. Chris?
Well, the kickers won't be happy about that either, and you wonder if that played a factor in Sean Fleming's opening miss. 2nd and 10. And McManus looks for Jim Sandusky. I might as well call him the snowman because Sandusky is always at his best in these elements.
Well, you know, one of the greatest pluses about having a receiver coach also playing a dual role as a receiver is that he has a great understanding of defensive philosophy. He knows how to read the coverage when he gets to the line of scrimmage, and that was just pitch and catch for he and Danny McManus.
3rd Grey Cup for Jim Sandusky, 35 years of age, and he won the Grey Cup along with Don Matthews in '85 for BC. First down, here's Eric Blunt, and a hole off the left side, and Blunt up to the 53-yard line.
Well, we've already seen a good mix offensively from Edmonton. They've shown the misdirection. Here they come right at you. Blunt finds a nice crease in this big front behind this big offensive line. They put Jim Sandusky in the slot, which we didn't expect. We expected him outside. He's in the slot. So a lot of mix here from Ronnie Lancaster Jr.
And the Eskimos, there are the balls. I don't know if they are being kept that warm in that duffel bag. 2nd and short, and they stuffed the run that time. And that's Demetrius Maxey, Oscar Giles there. And a big defensive stop by the front 4 of the Argos.
Demetrius Maxey was the youngest player in last year's Grey Cup and had an outstanding game playing tackle for Baltimore. He has been moved back into that position for today's game with the loss of Andrew Stewart at tackle. And he is a dominant force. He played 9 games this year for Montreal before being picked up by Toronto, but this is his natural position at defensive tackle. And the 2 sacks last week versus Montreal, an outstanding game, and he was playing defensive end in that game.
They're that short. Less than a yard.
You're a gambler. Do you gamble in this situation with the slippery surface?
All season long, you've been telling me to go if it's even 2 yards.
Well, I'm going in this situation. This is for a championship. I mean, the other games got you here. This is one you already have the advantage with the safety that you've gotten off of Toronto early. If you get the first down now, they're really at a big disadvantage. Ron Lancaster Jr., the offensive coordinator.
I think certainly if you've got a fullback that's 245 pounds, this is a good situation to go in. I agree with you, James. I think they go here.
And, David, they also bring Willie Flesch, the linebacker, in and put him at a fullback position. So they got a lot of power in this backfield. Look for him to go right up the pike with it.
Rod Conop, Leo Groenwagen, Chris Green, the rest of the offensive linemen dig in. That's Tony Burse going high, and he'll have it. Tony Burse, 238-pound fullback.
And, David, you had the luxury of having Tony with you down in San Antonio, and you know what type of load he is.
Yeah, he's a huge load. Here's Willie Flesch coming off. He just likes to stick his head in there and move the pile back. That's all they're trying to do is get some push into the second level. But Tony Burse is a guy that has a tremendous amount of versatility. Catch the ball, too.
And, David, also, you remember he set the tempo of that game last week in Calgary when he came down and caused that fumble on the opening kickoff.
Ball just over midfield. Edmonton first down. There's Burse again. And Tony stacked up after a couple of yards, driven back. David, when we talked to Ron Lancaster and Ron Lancaster Jr., they emphasized the importance of getting 4 yards at least on first down.
I think it's very important that they're positive on first down. Toronto likes to play a blanket zone most of the time, and if you don't produce anything on first down, now it allows them to go to their 30 package and just rush 3 people and draws 9 into coverage.
Well, when you look at situations, David, on first down, you like to pick up 4 and 5. When you had a 2nd and 7, what was your favorite call in this scenario?
Well, I looked to the coach and asked if they were sending anybody else in, because that's a bad call.
Well, they've got 2nd and 7 here against Don Matthews' defense. Good protection for McManus, and it's Burse out of the backfield. He'll be close to the first down, but he may be short as Tony Burse is stopped up at the Argo 45.
These are the things that Tony Burse gives you. He has the power to pick up 1 yard, but he also has the versatility to slip out of the backfield. Here's a 238-pounder catching the ball in the backfield and then watch him deal out some punishment.
Hey, Chris, I'll tell you one thing this is doing. This is keeping Doug Flutie on the sideline. He is spending a lot of time on the sideline. It's cold out there, and even if you're out there with the heaters on the sideline, your legs have a tendency to get cold.
Well, Burse powered his way past Mike O'Shea to move the chains. It's a first down. Danny McManus has started the game 4 for 7 and 40 yards. Doug Flutie 0 for 2. First down, Edmonton. McManus steps up, looks deep. Sandusky up for it and can't make the one-handed catch as he was tangled up with Donald Smith.
Toronto came with something we expected. Bill Bradley, the defensive coordinator for the Argos, had told us that they wanted to do was try to mix up their looks. Here they come with a blitz to the outside from the. Here's Jim Sandusky trying to come back and make a play that's underthrown and almost comes up with a great catch. But they come with a blitz from the halfback, the strong side of the field. The tackle recognizes it, drops, and picks up the guy as Givens drops into coverage.
So Sandusky comes to the wide side again on 2nd and 10 from the Argo 45. They call the draw play to Blunt, and he is down at the 40. Oscar Giles in on the tackle.
Well, right now, this is what Edmonton has wanted to do, is control the ball. If you look at the clock, it's 9 minutes gone in the first quarter already, and Doug Flutie has only touched the football twice. He has dominated Edmonton two games that they've played offensively, but now they're playing it into Edmonton's hand, keeping him off the field.
Well, under good conditions, it would be within Sean Fleming's range. Would have been a 47-yard attempt, but in these conditions, Glenn Harper is on to punt, and the Jet, Jimmy Cunningham, is back, and he scorched Edmonton in both regular season meetings with exceptional punt returns. Harper with a pooch kick, which goes out of bounds, and so they won't put the ball in Cunningham's hands. 5:46 to go in the first quarter of the 84th Grey Cup game in Hamilton.
5:46 to go in the first quarter at Ivor, Wynne. Edmonton leading Toronto 2-0. Kent Austin, Dave Sapunjas are our game day analysts. The Eskimos controlling the ball offensively. Kent, what's this sort of defense from Toronto tell you?
Well, so far at every snap it's been zone coverage, and I'm a little surprised at this with the style of athlete that Edmonton has in the receiving core. You'd think that Toronto would get up in their face more and pressure them, and if you just keep playing a soft zone, Edmonton is going to complete more passes.
2 big gains there by Darren Flutie and Jim Sandusky, indicative of how the Eskimos have controlled the ball, Chris.
2-0. The Eskimos leading on that safety. You saw the time of possession. The Eskimos with 14 plays, and the Argos with just 3. You can see Kislak continues to wear the gloves as the Argos work against the stingiest defense in the CFL. And Flutie goes right back to the shotgun. Out of the backfield, Pinball Clemens can't hang on. The man who led the CFL in receiving this year with 116 catches.
Well, we're going to get the Argonauts right. Well, Edmonton right now with some pass interference. A flag came in late, but Toronto right now is struggling, trying to get some rhythm within their offense.
Contact on an eligible receiver. Edmonton number 27. First down.
Edmonton knows that they're going to throw the balls. Toronto basically has already scrapped the run game. David talked about how difficult it is to have all that misdirection in the backfield, and you won't see Drummond and Pinball handling on too many direct snaps.
Senior Mobley is the man called away from the football for illegal contact. It gives the Argos a first down. And Flutie guns this one complete. And that's Paul Mazzotti with the catch, the pride of Stony Creek. And he shows his emotion, fired up playing in this game at home, and that's an 11-yard pickup for Mazzotti.
Paul Mazzotti, one of Doug's favorite players to go to in controlled passing game situations. Here, Mazzotti just reads the coverage, sits it down, Doug sticks him with the ball, and it's a positive game.
Last year, he was the only Argonaut to have over 50 receptions. This year, the team has 5 receivers with over 60.
At the 35 of Toronto, first down for Flutie, who looks deep and had the man open. Ball falling incomplete as Jimmy Cunningham got in behind the Eskimo secondary.
But the pressure is coming from the front four of Edmonton. Derek McCready did a tremendous job of collapsing the pocket. Now that's something that Doug is not accustomed to, throwing passes and ended up on his backside.
And that translates into helping the secondary. That time Jimmy the Jet was wide open for possibly a big play, but Doug didn't have the time to hang on and make the throw.
James, you mentioned it off the top in that matchup comparison. The key to the front 7 of Edmonton, it's a veteran group. Most of them have been together for the last 4 years. And they had 70 sacks on the year. There's early movement. This time McCready a little anxious. Let's find out if he was drawn offside.
Well, I think Chris Giaskis might have bobbed a little bit, and that's what McCready was looking at, but looks like Edmonton is going to be moving backward.
Outside, Edmonton number 79, still second down.
Now, this is the biggest game of his career. He spent a lot of time in this league. As you see him right there moving a little bit, and he was the one that did jump off sides, but Derek McCready is very anxious. We talked about the early game jitters, and he has a lot of them.
So McCready checks out on this play. It's 2nd and 5 with 4:08 remaining in the first quarter. 2-0 Eskimos. Flutie, heat from Errol Martin, gets outside and throws downfield and completes the pass.
He was out of bounds on the play, Chris. Doug Flutie could not see the out-of-bounds marker with the snow all over the field, but the pressure has been consistent from the front 7 of Edmonton. Errol Martin, who played his high school football right here in the Hamilton area, got in on the Toronto quarterback.
I'll tell you what, outstanding Canadian Leroy Blue was hunting him hard from the backside. He makes a pretty big hit right on the sideline.
Robert Drummond caught the pass in traffic. So Flutie shows you his elusive qualities, but ran out of real estate. And it's 3rd down. Here's another local product, Oakville's Mike Vanderjagt. Good punt. Gizmo back at his 26. Gets outside. Henry Williams. And he's driven out of bounds by Robert Drummond. But a good return of 20 yards by Gizmo after a 49-yard punt by Mike Vanderjagt. Edmonton has the first football. We're late first quarter. 2-0 Eskimos in Hamilton.
Days a week with BC's best service and lowest prices. We're at 751 Terminal, Vancouver.
First down, Edmonton with the football. McManus going up top for Eddie Brown. What a catch! Eddie Brown! Touchdown, Edmonton! McManus to Brown for a spectacular opening major score.
And the Grey Cups have been a showcase for Eddie Brown. In the 93 game, he caught a 52-yarder in that game from Damon Allen, and now he takes this one all the way to the house. But the offensive line gave Danny Mack the time, and Eddie Brown on just a go route.
Sean Fleming in to add the extra point, puts it through, And the Edmonton Eskimos have a 9-point lead here in the opening quarter of the 84th Grey Cup game. David Archer's old receiver, but you had a winning touchdown hookup in the World League Final.
Well, here it is, just bump and run coverage, and he runs the fade just like he did in '92 for me to win the World League Championship. Juggles the ball. Look at the great catch. I mean, Eddie Brown, tremendous concentration in bad conditions, and this is the big play guy they needed to get involved.
And you think about it, Eddie has been somewhat invisible during the first 2 playoff games that Edmonton had played, and some people started to think that he wasn't an inclement weather player, but when it's all on the line and the big game is there, he comes up with the biggest catch of the game thus far.
He must have been involved in some of those hacky sack games because he was pretty good with the feet here, too.
Well, you talk about all-out effort, using every extremity of the body to get it. He went out and brought it in, and Danny McManus, so that's the key. You got to put it out, David, where a receiver can run underneath the ball. You got to put it through that drop zone.
You're exactly right. He kept the ball on the field, allowed Eddie to come back inside and make the play. Not bad coverage there from Smith either. Just a great play by Eddie Brown.
Downtown Eddie Brown with the opening major score. He was 3rd in the CFL in receiving during the regular season. 70 catches, 1,325 yards.
Danny McManus over there getting congratulations. You know, he shoulders so much of the burden of this team when it's struggling.
Sean Fleming kicks it off. It'll be pinball from his 25. Goes to the wide side of the field. Eskimos stringing it out. And don't give him a lane. Trent Brown, the safety, was the final man to force him out of touch.
Downtown Eddie Brown, a look at him over there on the bench, keeping his composure, but the 64th-yard reception for the touchdown. He had 114 yards receiving in 1993, but no catch has ever been bigger than that for Eddie Brown in his CFL career.
I tell you, people overlook this guy. You know, he had over 1,300 yards receiving this year. He was an all-star, I think, for the first time in his career. He felt like he'd been overlooked many times. He comes up with a big one.
Here's Flutie going to work, swings it out, puts it into the hands of the explosive Jimmy Cunningham. And Cunningham is up to the Argo 50. Kavis Reed, the cornerback, touched him down, 16-yard gain for the Jet.
You know, as the season went on, they had to find a new way to get the ball in Jimmy Cunningham's hands. They moved him from wide out into the slot to get him closer to Doug Flutie, because once he gets his hands on the ball, he's ever so dangerous.
Cunningham, 62 catches, 800 yards, and he led the CFL in all-purpose yards this season. First down, Toronto. And Flutie goes wide side of the field and delivered the football high and incomplete. Dwayne Dimitrition, the University of Saskatchewan product, was the intended receiver.
Well, the situation here is Edmonton splitting the field. They're playing 4-on-3 on both sides of the field. That time, Dimitrition should have stayed out wide. That's what Doug was telling him, is he wanted him to stay wide, stretch that coverage so he has to throw to the outside.
Under 2 minutes to play, first quarter of the Grey Cup game, and it's Edmonton 9, Toronto no score. Flutie faces 2nd and 10 from the Argo 50. Here comes the rush, and Doug will take off. First time today, first down Toronto, as Flutie uses that extra option he has, a 14-yard pickup.
And that's similar to a run that he made back in '94 versus BC in the snow, when he needed to pick up the yards to keep the drive moving, to march his team down, to put him on the scoreboard where he thought would be the winning touchdown, but his brother foiled that afternoon. Doug takes it all on himself to get the yardage needed.
756 yards rushing during the regular season. First down, Flutie, better time, working deep. A battle down there, and Mazzotti stretched out, couldn't bring it in.
You'll be hard-pressed to beat this guy deep. Malcolm Frank is probably one of the best cover guys, one-on-one in the league. He squats, which meaning he sits down at 10 yards, he bumps you off, he pesters receivers, and it's really difficult. He funnels the receiver out of bounds here, which is what he does so well on the deep route.
You know, and one of the things about Malcolm Frank, that is no receiver this season has caught more than 3 balls on him in any football game.
Doug Flutie, 2 for 7, 28 yards, and wearing gloves for the first time this season. Here's that little shovel pass inside. They give it to Cunningham, and he found a crease and should have a first down as he slides inside the 35. Jed Roberts, who comes in the defensive rotation for the Eskimos, made the tackle.
Well, James had already talked about the importance of getting the ball in Cunningham's hands. He's the version of Eddie Brown for Toronto, and here he gets the pitch inside, gets some good blocking, and wisely gets on the ground, gets what he can get down.
David, another thing you get with Cunningham and Clemens, you got two guys with very low center of gravity, so their feet really don't come that high off the ground, so their footing is better than most players.
Argos threatening for the first time today. This should be the final play of the first quarter from the 35. Flutie dumps it off. Here's Clements. Pinball Clements. And he's caught by Willie Pless, but not before he gets to the 15. A 20-yard pass and run play from Flutie to Clements as the Argos are slowly getting their offense untracked. And that is the opening 15 minutes of football in the 84th Grey Cup game. It was a big one for the Eskimos. Eddie Brown out of touch by Willie Pless.
And I tell you, that was a very dangerous play by Doug Flutie. There was a holding call, but he also threw a lateral on that play. Mike Clemens was actually behind his quarterback. In poor conditions like this, if that ball had slipped out and Edmonton recovered, there was no one to stop him. Mike Clemens, though, with great hands, pulls it in.
Well, this is a situation where they had the quick screen to Clemens, just trying to get him the ball quickly.
Holding. Toronto number 62. Repeat first down.
And Pinball picks up some yardage, but they get the penalty.
Chris Perez, an outstanding left offensive tackle, but Malvin Hunter, a tremendous pass rusher, putting a lot of pressure on Flutie early, and he had to hold to keep him off his quarterback.
Chris Perez out of the same school, Kansas, as the great Willie Pless. First and 20 from the 25. And here's Derek McCready, and he got to Flutie. The sack pack gets to Doug Flutie.
You talk about a player wanting a game, Derek McCready. He's had a career that has been plagued by injuries in BC and in Ottawa. He found himself a home in Edmonton this season, playing on the natural grass. He felt at the end of the season this was as healthy as he's ever been in his career, and you can see he still has some explosion left in those legs.
5-yard loss. Second and 25, Toronto. The ball now back at the 30. Flutie gets it away, and Clemens can't hang on. And it'll be third down. And in these conditions, it's no gimme as far as field goal range is concerned.
It's going to be unsure footing for Mike Vanderjet.
Well, the coverages that they're playing is just a combination coverage on both sides of the field, and Calgary's trying to flood those coverages and put somebody in each hole. Here, Pinball's the only guy that's open, is the guy in the flat, and Pinball didn't make the play.
Mike Vanderjagt's longest field goal of the year is 51 yards. I asked him about the footing and the conditions on the field today and how that might affect his range. He says it'll take about 5 yards off his best kick, and that he won't plant his hard with his plant foot on the surface of the snow and artificial turf as you see him look for a spot to make the kick. Chris?
Well, Vanderjagt is surveying a 37-yard attempt.
You know, what I like from the officials right here is that they are allowing him time to clear off the ice off the field because the grounds crew has not been able to keep the field clean enough. That's a great move by the officials.
Vanderjagt said his high point of the year was a winning field goal against Edmonton. And this will be a high point, too, as Vanderjagt makes no mistake. The Oakville native has the Argos on the board.
Makes the score Edmonton 9, the Argos 3.
Early second quarter, Ivor Wynne Stadium, Hamilton, and the Edmonton Eskimos with a 9-3 lead, a 64-yard touchdown pass from McManus to Eddie Brown, and a 2-point safety conceded by Doug Flutie, and now the Argos on the board.
Edmonton's defense comes up big. Pinball had caught the pass and run down to around the 10, and then Edmonton pushed him back and made him try the long field goal, which was converted.
Well, this is a defense that's been able to withstand the challenges all season long, so this is no exception. They've played Toronto close in 2 regular season games.
Well, the Eskimos have enjoyed better field position so far. McManus delivering it behind Nick Mazzoli, who has returned to the lineup for Edmonton. He replaces Larry Ruck as a non-import on the roster. The great linebacker of the Eskimos out with a hamstring problem.
That's a very common play. Whenever you get the roll up of the corner and a half drops deep, you want to get a guy in that hole. And Mazzoli and McManus just weren't on the same page there.
Well, there's North Bay's Mike O'Shea digging in as the Eskimos are 2nd and 10 from the 35. Over the middle, there's Mazzoli, and he's wrapped up at the 42, and he'll be short of the first down as the middle linebacker out of North Bay made the tackle.
You know, this was a frustrating year for Nick Mazzoli, the hamstring injuries we see, and that's the reason why he replaced Larry Ruck. He was a 1,000-yard receiver for the first time in his pro career last season. Mike O'Shea, closing, though, had an outstanding game versus Montreal at Sky Dome last week, registering 6 tackles in the game.
Well, that's the problem with not being positive on first down. Now it allows Toronto to play the blanket zone, drop off, let him complete the ball underneath, come up, make the tackle as O'Shea did there.
3rd down, and Glenn Harper is in. Jimmy the Jet ready to take off at the other end as Donald Smith almost got to the punter. Cunningham from his 30, across the 35, and Jimmy Cunningham's doing it again. No flags, and Cunningham is going to score. Touchdown, Toronto. Well, we talked about it at the outset. Special teams, both clubs have explosive kick returners, and Jimmy Cunningham has scorched Edmonton again.
And I'll tell you, the key to that play was bringing it right up the middle of the field. You talked about the little guys going straight and keeping that low center of gravity. Watch Donald Smith as he closes on Glenn Harper. Right in the corner of your screen, got a crushing blow, just laid out the Edmonton punter. Jimmy Cunningham was off to the races, and they had cleared a path for him, and he took it to the house.
Snow Angel in the end zone, and a touchdown converted. And the Toronto Argonauts have their first lead of the evening. The Jet. Only stadium in Canada where the fans are as tough as the players on the field. You have to be tough in these conditions, but they're being treated to an exceptional first half, and Jimmy Cunningham with the 80-yard punt return, and he excelled in both regular season games against Edmonton and doing it again.
You know, he's such an outstanding athlete, but Daryl Adrellin is the architect of the special teams for Toronto, and he makes sure that he puts the best athletes that he can on his team.
Short kick on the turf, and now Gizmo. And he is nailed by Michael O'Shea at the 32-yard line. So Jimmy Cunningham is going into the record books, not with the longest, but the second longest punt return in CFL history.
You know, I was talking with Jimmy Cunningham. He idolizes Terry Metcalf. Terry Metcalf plays with the Baltimore Ravens of the NFL. His dad, Terry Metcalf, played in Toronto. But watch this tremendous block that you're going to get by Donald Smith. This is what you have to do when you play on special teams. You have to hustle all the way through. It's going to be on the left part of your screen. Glenn Harper never sees this knockout shot. Freeze it right there.
First down, Edmonton. Eric Blunt, and he is met by a swarm of Argonauts. Rob Waldrop in the middle of it. And so Blunt unable to get positive yardage. Glenn Harper shaking away the cobwebs after taking the big hit.
Here's the Harper shot right in the middle of your screen. He never saw him coming. Textbook blocked by Donald Smith. Daryl Adrellin said he has the luxury that no other coach on this coaching staff has, is that he has 36 players to pick from when he's choosing his team and everyone else only has 16.
Just past the 4-minute mark of the second quarter. Danny McManus has outshone his counterpart, but finds himself down by a yard or a point as he delivers the high pass, incomplete. Donald Smith knocked the ball out of the grasp of Nick Mazzoli.
Once again, this is a result of a negative play on first down. They have to be very positive on first down, keep themselves in the second median situation so they know they're going to get man. Here, it's a blanket zone, and he has to force the football downfield. Mazzoli almost makes a great catch.
Now, David, when you get in situations like this and you got the bad weather, what would be a perfect play to call on first down?
Well, I think you go to the short passes. You try to get the running game. If the running game's bogging down, then you go to some short passes. Get your running backs involved. Dump the ball off your running backs. Keep some people coming in underneath. Throw the underneath routes. Keep yourself in a second medium situation. Throw the ball on first down.
Jet ready again. Harper kicks away from Cunningham this time. And out of bounds, and the Argo fans are on Harper after a 29-yard punt. After the first meeting between these two teams, in which Cunningham continually hurt Ron Lancaster's team, he said he had a little star on the punt return video, but they still have not been able to corral the Jets, so perhaps they're going to just kick away the rest of the afternoon. Here's Flutie, second time he's called his number, and Doug Flutie has the Argos back in Edmonton territory, 16 yards. 30 yards for Flutie on the day on the ground, and Glenn Rogers with the tackle.
And that goes back to what David was talking about, picking up positive yardage on first down. Doug did the proper thing, keeping it on the ground. Right now, the defensive players have the unsure footing. He goes straight ahead, and once again, he has the 1st and 10.
That is the element that the Argos have that Edmonton doesn't. McManus will not run very often. Flutie guns it over the middle. It's complete, and there he is again. Jimmy Cunningham has been a big story for Toronto in the first half.
And David, they've put him in at the slot, and that gives him a closer path between he and Doug Flutie. He doesn't have to look over those big defensive backs trying to find him out on the corner.
Well, a lot of times on your team, your weaker defenders are your halfbacks. Now you got one of your big play people locked on halfbacks, although Darian Hagan, a good cover guy. The thing that's happening up front is Toronto is sorting out some of the problems that Edmonton was presenting for him early in the game with the pass rush, really starting to give Doug time to throw.
16-yard pickup for Cunningham. He has 42 in the game, and the football at the Edmonton 28. Over the middle it goes. Mazzotti with the catch, and Willie Pless wrestles him down.
The crossing routes have always been a mainstay of this Argo offense, and what they're doing is that they have the wideouts running off the corners and the halfbacks, and they're bringing the wideout underneath, and that's what Mazzotti did. After the clear out had come, the linebackers had gone in their drop. He was wide open.
Yeah, I think Mazzotti is a guy that you would like doing that because he understands coverage extremely well, finds the open area, and gets there.
And you see his numbers. For the 3rd consecutive year, he's had over 1,000 yards receiving.
3 on the pickup for Mazzotti in his 9th year with the Argos. 2nd and 7. Rush on. Flutie slings that one. Sidearm. Was looking for Tyrone Williams. First time he's called Williams' number today, but it's incomplete.
Tyrone Williams only had 1 reception last week in the game versus Montreal. He had 60 on the regular season. Really the first full season that Tyrone Williams has played since he left Western Ontario in 1991, and it was a good season. He had 800 yards in reception yardage.
Old teammate of Dave Sapunjas at the University of Western Ontario. And now they clear some snow and try and improve the footing for Mike Vanderjagt.
You know, Tyrone Williams also playing in his 2nd consecutive Grey Cup. He played last year with Calgary and hoping to get a ring here this year with Toronto.
This is a 32-yard attempt for Vanderjagt. And he's got that one. So Mike Vanderjagt is 2 for 2 with family and friends looking on. And with 7:51 to play in the first half at Ivor Wynne. It's the Argos now in front by 4. 13-9 Toronto. 7:51 to go, first half. And after the Vanderjagt field goal, the Eskimos will scrimmage from their own 35.
You know, people have talked about the weather so much, and it is a bad day, but look at the people in the crowd. The people of Hamilton should be extremely proud of the show they put on this week. It's been a great crowd.
Now, Dave, this is the point that you talked about, that Danny McManus needs to pick up that 4 and 5 on first down.
Eskimos 2 and out their last 2 possessions. McManus guns it downfield. Jim Sandusky, and he will score. How about that? For 35-year-old Jim Sandusky.
Chris, he had his playoff coming out party versus Winnipeg when he scored the big 3 touchdowns in that game. Last week, only 1 reception versus Calgary, but now he exploits the Toronto secondary and Donald Smith for a quick 6 on first down, and Donald Smith is down on the play, possibly pulled a hamstring.
This is a situation where Sandusky just goes straight up the seam, probably a clearing pattern, but he was so clean that Danny tried to get the ball to him. The free safety did not play the ball. He played the receiver. The ball went right by the free safety. Sandusky, smart receiver, makes the play.
And Don Matthews talked a lot about his free safety, Lester Smith. Said he was a great run support free safety. But now we see what Danny McManus has checked him out in the back end to see can he support on the pass. That time he didn't get over in time. He knocked off the corner Smith. Sandusky kept running.
Don Matthews was the man who signed Jim Sandusky in Othello, Washington 11 years ago. It was a great idea until Sandusky caught that pass.
And you talked to Don and asked him, was he surprised to see Jim Sandusky playing as well 11 years later as he did when he signed him? And he was original member of the BC Lions. If you recall, in the 1985 Grey Cup, he had a great game where he took a long pass about 76 yards for a touchdown in that game versus Hamilton.
Well, this play was a situation where they had a stack with Darren Flutie and Jim Sandusky. Sandusky, tremendous concentration, and there's the collision between the 2 Smiths, and looked like Donald took the worst of the shot.
Chris, we had a conversation a few weeks ago with Ron Lancaster out in Edmonton, and he talked about the moves that Huey Campbell taught him how to make as a coach. You look at situations, you think about it, you don't do anything too drastically, too fast. You take your time, and you figure out what's best for the ball club. And a lot of concern was thought about when he made the move with Shalon Baker. But everything has worked out right for the Eskimos with Jim Sandusky in the lineup.
What did Ron Lancaster say? Why did you make the move? He said, I was playing a hunch, and how that hunch has played out for the Eskimos. 3 touchdowns 2 weeks ago, and now a major score in the Grey Cup game. And thumbs up back home after that.
I think the way that he has exploded in the playoffs, now his 4th of the postseason, an outstanding second part of the season for Jim Sandusky.
16-13 Edmonton as Sean Fleming kicks it off. And Mike Clements from his own 15. And Clements is nailed. That's Trent Brown. 20-yard return.
Now, David, what do you do after someone has struck you for quick 6? How do you respond offensively in this scenario?
Well, Doug's personality is to attack, and he'll immediately come out and do the things they were being successful with. They've gotten down into what they call the green zone, the 20-yard line in, and not been able to punch it in. But it's important for them to come out and get a positive drive here, reestablish what they had going in the last 2 drives offensively.
Well, the long ball has hurt the Argos. 64 yards to Brown, 75 yards to Sandusky. And now a handoff to Drummond, and Robert Drummond has not been a major part of the Argo offense so far this afternoon. He was the dominant player the last 2 weeks, James.
Well, he had an outstanding game. If you recall, last week coming out of the backfield, he had 7 receptions, and he carried the ball 8 times for 44 yards. But that was also on a dry track at Skydome. Now with the footing not as good, and Robert Drummond is a very upright runner. So on a slippery surface like this, he'll be having a footing problem, and he also has his shoes spatted, so he also loses traction from that.
Just 2 for Drummond. So from the 37, 2nd and 8. Flutie steps out of the pocket and just got it away. Mazzotti into the open field. Paul Mazzotti nailed at the Eskimo 45. But Doug Flutie got that away just in the nick of time as Willie Pless was converging.
Well, Mazzotti comes from the short side of the field and just drags across. We saw Mazzotti catch it earlier against the zone. This time he sees his quarterback get flushed out and is there to help him out. Pless is right there to make the play, but Mazzotti continues with his quarterback.
What happens is that those clear-out routes, what we talked about earlier, where the linebackers have dropped deep. Willie Pless was playing a spy technique, but Dixon and Hunter had dropped deep, and it allowed Mazzotti to clear underneath and pick up the first down, and you can see him limping after the play.
So Mazzotti is on the sidelines. First down, Argos, 5:15 to go, first half. Flutie in trouble. Down he goes. Derek McCready with his 2nd sack of the game.
Had talked with Ronnie Lancaster about Derek McCready. He said he had always wanted Derek McCready. He had played so many games against Derek, but Derek had a lot of seasons where he didn't make it through the season. And you talk with the defensive personnel, the players on the defensive side of the ball for Edmonton, and they said that Derek McCready was the most inspirational player on their defense this year because he was happy every day he came to work, and you can see it in the 84th Grey Cup.
Argos with 39 yards and team losses. 2nd down and 20. Flutie can't find anybody open. He'll look again. Downfield, and there's a strike to Mazzotti. Paul Mazzotti back off the bench, off the limp, and a big play for the Argos.
You think he might have been playing possum, David?
This is a situation where a veteran quarterback scrambles. You got a veteran receiver. Here Mazzotti just running a clear route, and he sees his quarterback in trouble. So he floats back to the inside, finds the open area, and then Doug, always looking for something to happen downfield, makes it happen with.
This is what we talk about in the Flutie factor. This is what Doug can do. He can extend plays up to 5 and 6 seconds, and when you allow that to occur, defensive backs cannot cover your receivers.
Mazzotti back down again, but 4 catches, 79 yards. Here's Flutie, rolling right. Has Jimmy Cunningham inside the 5. Cunningham drilled out of bounds, lost the football, but a 15-yard pickup, and the Argos knocking at the door. Trent Brown, the man who forced Cunningham out of touch.
Well, once again, this is a situation where Doug gets flushed out. They wanted to run their little pitch play inside the pinball, but Mal Hunter disrupted it, so Flutie continued outside, and Cunningham saw his quarterback again in trouble and came back and made the play for him.
And it goes back to the sure footing of the short receivers, where they have that low center of gravity, and they really don't have those long strides. They're skating across the top of this snow, and they're beating the defensive backs to the spots in the zone.
Jed Roberts racing off the field. 3:10 left, first half. And the football on the Edmonton 4-yard line. Drummond now the lone setback. Takes the handoff, and a big initial hit by Glenn Rogers Jr.
You know, one of the things about this Eskimo defense, inside the 5, they're very tough.
3-minute warning being given to both benches in a super first half of the 84th Grey Cup game. Goal from the 2.
And this has turned into a snow track meet almost. It's been back and forth. Both offenses have really gone out and tried to create the big plays. Danny McManus to Eddie Brown and Jim Sandusky, and Flutie, the field general, marching back and forth, picking up the 7-8 yards, going to getting 15 on first down.
Looks like 2.5 to pay dirt. Drummond again, left side, touchdown, Robert Drummond.
Robert Drummond in his first 2 Grey Cup games for Baltimore started at fullback. Only had 1 carry and 5 receptions. This time getting the ball at the eye. Mike Pringle had been the eye in the previous 2 Grey Cups he had played in. Now he is the featured back. He gets the ball, and he has some big guys up front that know how to clear the way. It's no way of stopping him getting over that stretch, over that goal line for the touchdown.
Drummond used to be a wide receiver, and he said he just was too physical, so they moved him into the backfield. Loves to play the power game. Powered it in. Vanderjagt adds the extra point. And in a seesaw battle in the 84th Grey Cup game, the Toronto Argonauts are now back on top. Vanderjagt has it on the tee as the snow continues to fall in Hamilton. And this is Gizmo Williams. Henry Williams with the crease, and now he'll get outside over midfield. Henry Williams. Vanderjagt trying to track him down, won't do it. Gizmo scores. We saw the second-year man, Jimmy Cunningham. Now we see the greatest kick returner in football history. Henry Williams answers back.
Shades of the 90s, 87 Grey Cup at BC Place versus Toronto when he returned a missed field goal back for the touchdown. This time Henry Williams answered Robert Drummond's call. And has there ever been a more exciting kick returner? You talk about what he's taken to the house. He's had 19 punt returns called back over his career at an estimated 3,500 yards. And if he had added that to his total, just think of how far he would be away from everybody in history of football.
Here's a guy that at the start of the year wasn't in the lineup for the Eskimos.
Well, the beauty of the Giz is to go straight ahead. And what he does, he sets all his blocks up. Then he finds the crease and gets to the outside, and all he had to do was outrun the kicker for the touch.
David, if you think about it, he probably had the largest play in that Calgary game last week when he returned that missed field goal back out to midfield.
Had a 50-yard return or a 51-yard return against Calgary that's really changed up the field position situation.
Changed the momentum, got him in field goal range for Sean Fleming to kick another field goal. But once again, Henry Williams, we talked about earlier, players taking it straight up the field, and those players with that low center of gravity and that short stride, Gizmo explodes.
91-yard kickoff return for Gizmo Williams, and it's the 4th lead change of the first half.
Well, watch the Giz set up his blocks. All he does is get straight up the field, allows his people to get locked, and now Giz does what he does best, and that's with speed. Gets to the outside, and the kicker's not going to run him down.
David, as a quarterback, would you consider this being your best offensive weapon, sitting there watching your special teams back and forth up and down the field?
I'll tell you, this is beautiful. The crowd couldn't ask for more, and as a quarterback, you know you don't have to drive the ball 70 yards for a score. Giz makes it happen in about 10 seconds.
I guess take a bow. That is a new Grey Cup record. The Argos, on the strength of the Rockets' return in '91, won the Grey Cup.
You know, and this game has gone completely opposite of what anyone had ever expected. Everyone was thinking possibly a low-scoring affair with all the snow on the field, but this has been nothing less than a spectacular first half of football.
Remember, we're just in the first half. 2:29 to play. Mike Clements. You know what he did last week? And Clements with a good return. Don Blair, Tony Burse push him out. Well, James, good memory, 87. Why don't we take another look? Missed field goal, and Gizmo went to work.
You look at it, and the key to special teams is guys understanding when you have a player who can take it all the way back, get your blocks. And look who's leading him, Don Wilson, who now plays for Toronto, but Henry Williams such an explosive player. He's done it from the start, and he's continued throughout his CFL career.
33 years of age, says he wants to play another year, I guess. Flutie, sidearm, swings it, almost picked off Darian Hagan.
Now, David, that has to be a terrible pass to throw out in the flat. It's so dangerous out there at this point of the game.
Well, this is certainly a pressure situation. Willie Pless comes clean up through the middle. You'll see Willie coming clean right up in Doug's face, and it doesn't allow Doug to really step in and throw the ball. Darren Hagan rakes on the ball and almost picks it off.
Now, this is where that zone scheme that Edmonton uses up front is so effective because offensive linemen really can't gauge who's going to come and who's going to drop.
When they play so much combination coverage back there, switching people off, they like to call it match coverage, but Doug didn't have a chance to sort it out.
Hagan, the College Player of the Year in 1989, when the quarterback of the University of Colorado. 2nd and 10 for Flutie. Calls his number, and now pitches it out. That went forward. Clements has a first down. So a forward pass from Flutie to Clements, and a first down. A little shuttle pass there that the Argos have utilized a great deal in recent weeks.
I'm not so sure that Doug wasn't past the line of scrimmage on that play, but great execution. Now, Doug, you can't say that you designed this in your playbook, David, where a quarterback shovels the ball with 2 hands as he's trying to escape the pocket.
That was not a shovel pass. All it was Pinball sitting down underneath the coverage, and Doug got in trouble. He wanted to run the QB draw, but when he got cut off, he knew exactly where Pinball was and shoves the ball out. The Pinball sitting in the flat against the zone.
And I do believe he was over the line of scrimmage because it showed where the ball was, where it was snapped, and he had actually gone past where his offensive linemen were standing. That was an illegal forward pass that was missed by the official.
Well, we quarterbacks don't ever think we're over the line of scrimmage. He extends an extra 2 or 3 yards for us when we're on the move.
You guys never think you're over the line of scrimmage. You don't want to be hit by defensive linemen. What else you want? You want us to get you a chair to sit in or something?
I'm going to give the officials the benefit of the doubt when you can't see the line of scrimmage. It is at the 46 now of Edmonton. And Flutie fakes the inside toss, goes outside to Drummond. And Robert Drummond turns the corner, and he'll have another first down near the Edmonton 35. Darian Hagan forced him out, but it's a pickup of 11 for Big Drummond.
I tell you, Singo and Mobley made a cardinal sin of all defensive players. You have to force a ball carrier back inside, and you see the defensive front with the 70 sacks. But that time, Mobley, who was a part of that, you have to force him back inside, David, where you have some support.
So true, because Dixon was flowing from the inside. He was the contained man. He needed to force him back in so Dixon could make the play.
The ball's at the Eskimo 35. First down, Toronto. And Flutie underneath to Clements, and he is tripped up immediately. Bruce Dixon, the Hamilton boy, replacing Larry Bruck.
And you think about how special this game is for Bruce Dixon. This is his first start of this season, and it's here at home in Hamilton in the Grey Cup, the biggest game of his career. He spent a lot of time this season rotating in and out with Larry Rupp, but he gets to start today.
Said he plays about 25% of the plays during the course of the year, but the understudy to Larry Ruck is in the hot seat today. 4-yard pickup at 2nd and 6. Flutie steps up again and has room left side, first down, and knocked out of bounds. That's Malcolm Frank, who forced Flutie out of touch.
David, we've seen Jimmy Cunningham catch passes come underneath, but that time he laid a key block for Doug Flutie to get outside.
Well, their receivers do such a good job of going to open areas, it doesn't allow coverage people to come off. And Doug's not being covered by anybody man-to-man, so he just runs up the field. Malcolm Frank finally comes over to make the play, but they're responsible for people downfield.
Adam Reeder, the brain thrust of this Argonaut offense, he gives Flutie the free rein, but they communicate constantly.
The ball's at the 20, first and 10 for Toronto with 1:31 to go. Direct snap, Drummond straight up the middle. And Robert Drummond fumbled the football. Let's see. Eskimos say they've got the football. And it looks like it's going to remain in the Argos' hands. But Drummond has had trouble holding on, 7 fumbles during the season.
He has. Late in the season, he had a problem maintaining the football. The past couple of games, he's been able to hold on. The last time these two teams met, if you recall early, he put one on the ground. This one here, He put it down once again, but that time he was able to come up with his own fumble recovery on the play. Willie Pless, the Terminator, inside, plugging the hole, causing the fumble, but Drummond got it back.
Big break for the Argos, 2nd and 2, and Flutie looks like he changed the count with Mike Kislak as he leaned over center. They're letting the clock run here. And the 20-second clock now down to 5. Drummond. And Drummond got near the 10 before he's driven back. I'm not sure.
I don't know if he got that, Chris. It's all going to depend on the spot. But tremendous surge by that Edmonton front 7.
Melvin Hunter had Drummond in his grasp.
Nixon and Mobley on the stop. Moving the sticks into
Melvin Hunter, the team's top sacker this year, also plays tough run support defense coming up inside on Robert Drummond, fighting off Pierre Vercheval, and Pierre's a load. He missed the first 16 games of this season with a broken ankle, but has come back and regained his starting job. Don Matthews believes you can't lose your job because of an injury.
It is first down. First and goal from inside the 10, Flutie. And that one incomplete. Good coverage there.
This is a good read by the defenders on for Edmonton. They're playing a two-man game with Cunningham and Mazzotti. Mazzotti runs in behind Cunningham, and Malcolm Frank actually turns his coverage loose and sits to the outside. Just sitting down in the zone. The ball's thrown. Had he not gotten his hands on it, you see Malcolm Frank almost comes up with the interception. There's a little bit of guessing going on. These two guys, Rogers and Malcolm Frank, play extremely well together.
Now, David, isn't this the point where Doug Flutie has the larger advantage over any other quarterback in the league with his mobility?
Well, I think he adds so much more of being able to run around.
2nd and goal. And Flutie's going to do just that, and he'll score. Touchdown, Doug Flutie. Carries 50 yards in this first half for the 5-time outstanding player in the Canadian Football League.
Well, this is what Doug Flutie has always brought to the plate, is his athleticism. Don Matthews stated that Doug Flutie runs about a 4.5 40. But not only that he has great lateral and forward movement, he sees the field so well. Once he saw that all his options with his receivers had been taken up, he just tucked it and walked in for 6.
Vanderjagt, and he does get the extra point. 27-23. What a first half in the 84th Grey Cup game.
Hold down, son. You got all winter.
27-23.
50 points in the first half of the 84th Grey Cup, Chris. Who would have ever thought it?
And the guy was picking 44 points total in the game.
Well, you always been conservative. You think hockey that 1-1 is a high-scoring contest, you know.
Now, this has been an amazing first half. Not done yet. 40 seconds to go, and Gizmo Williams is getting set.
David, what do you do with 40 seconds and you get the ball if you're Edmonton trailing by 4? Do you kill it, or do you try to get some points going into the locker room at halftime?
Well, I think a lot of it depends on what kind of return they get here. If they get a good positive return, I think you immediately go in the attack and try to make something happen. Certainly get yourself in position to get 3.
You got Giz back, and Eric Blunt. You know, we haven't heard much from Eric, but last year Eric led the league in all-purpose yards per game at 286, and is a great kick returner to complement Henry Williams.
Vanderjagt into the driving snow, and Gizmo on one hop. And he'll plunge to the 30. So not great field position.
And David, this is what you talked about. It's not great field position. You want to play conservatively right here.
Well, I think you come out and you still throw the football, but you give yourself an opportunity to complete the ball underneath, get something positive. If you don't, you're in trouble.
35 seconds away. Let's find out what the Eskimos plan to do with that time. Out of the shotgun, McManus goes back to work. That's blunt. And can't break the tackle. Sure-handed play there by Reggie Gibbons, who's had an outstanding year for the Argos at 3 different positions.
And David, this is one of the things that has plugged Edmonton this year, is that they've had so many second and longs instead of the second and shorts. And that causes your offense a lot of problems.
It really does. Now Danny's in a situation where he probably will try to milk the clock as much as he can, make something positive happen, but make sure they don't give up any points.
Second and long. McManus, a lot of steamboats. Now gets rid of it. There's Sandusky. And Jim Sandusky's on the Argos side of half. Wrestled down there by Ed Barry. But there are still some options left. 7 seconds on the clock. So they need to run one play if they're to get into Sean Fleming field goal range.
David, what do you throw in this scenario? And you need to pick up about 10.
Well, I think I would burn the timeout to make sure I don't lose any time, but obviously Danny's ready to go, so you got to keep the ball underneath.
And McManus quickly gets it away, and 1 second left on the clock as the catch is made by Darren Flutie, who has had a quiet first half.
Now they have to go to Sean Fleming here. Now his longest field goal last week versus Calgary was 40 yards. Similar type situation, icy surface, so it's going to be very important that they can get enough snow moved out of the way so he can get his footing down and get that plant foot in to get that leg swing and try to get in. It's going to be about a 45-yarder right here.
Maybe as much as 47.
I think they'll take their time out, give themselves some time to get the field clear here. This is what I thought Danny, the reason I was saying take the time out before Danny completed that underneath pass, and he did a great job of clock management there. A lot of times you see quarterbacks lose time, and if he lost a second, they wouldn't even have this attempt. But Danny did a good job of getting his people distributed, got the ball downfield, another 5 to give him a little bit better opportunity.
Timeout was called by Edmonton. Sean Fleming's longest of the year, 51 yards, and this looks like it'll be from 47. Does have the wind at his back.
And you think back to that 1993 Grey Cup, his long in that game was 52 yards, and he was 6 of 7.
Trying to get the Eskimos within 1 through one half of play. Got plenty of distance, but misses. Cunningham now will lug it out, trip up around the 5-yard line, and that'll do it for the first half. Wow. What a first half it was.